Welcome to Mind Shield. We protect the mind and pursue the truth. Let's get started.
All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're talking about brain stimulation. It's a technology that honestly inspires both incredible hope for new therapies and, let's face it, some pretty deep-seated fears. So what we're going to do is separate the science fiction from the science fact and see what the peer-reviewed research actually shows. On one side, you've got these amazing promises for treating things like severe depression. But on the other, you hear these chilling claims of remote mind control. It's this wild contrast, right? And to really get our heads around it, we need to look at both sides, starting with the most extreme fears out there. And look, these fears aren't just whispers on some obscure internet forum. This quote right here, it's from a 2020 report to the UN Human Rights Council. It's defining something called cyber torture in very specific high-tech terms. I mean, when a UN Special Rapporteur is discussing remote assault with neurotechnology, that tells you just how seriously these concerns are being taken, at least at the highest levels. So that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? It's one thing to describe a theoretical threat, but it's another thing entirely to actually build a device that can pull it off. So let's pivot away from the claims for a minute and dig into the hard evidence from the labs that are actually pioneering this stuff. The technology at the very heart of both the hopes and the fears is often called closed-loop neuromodulation. Now, I know that sounds super complicated, but the core concept is actually pretty straightforward, and it's being explored for some very real and very positive therapeutic reasons. You know, the best way to think about it is like a smart thermostat, but for your brain. A thermostat measures the temperature in the room, right? It compares it to the temperature you want, and then it turns the heat or the AC on or off to close that gap. Well, a closed-loop system does the exact same thing, just with brain activity. And this isn't some brand new idea either. Check out this diagram. It comes from a patent filed way back in the year 2000. What's so cool about this is how clearly it lays out the whole process. You measure the brain's electrical signals, that's the EEG, then a computer compares that signal to a desired or target brain state, and finally, it tells a magnetic stimulator to create a tiny field that nudges the brain's activity closer to that target. It's just a continuous, real-time feedback loop. Okay, so let's break that down step by step. Step 1, you measure what the brain is doing right now, usually with some EEG sensors on the scalp. Step 2, you have a computer model of a healthier brain state, maybe one that's associated with fewer depressive symptoms. Step 3, the system does the math, figures out the difference, and calculates the adjustment needed. And then step 4, it delivers a really precise pulse of energy, often using something called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, which uses powerful focused magnetic fields. So in a real lab or a clinic, what are these systems actually doing? Well, they're basically fine-tuning the therapy on the fly. They can optimize the exact timing of a pulse so it syncs up perfectly with your natural brain waves. They can tweak the intensity and the angle of the stimulation. They can even help create a totally personalized treatment by targeting the specific brain regions that need it most for you. It's all about making the therapy more precise and more effective for each individual person. And this technology is definitely moving out of the research lab. This device here is the Flow headset. It uses a really gentle electrical current, it's called TDCS, to treat depression at home. Now, to be clear, it's not a closed-loop system. It delivers a preset program instead of adjusting in real time. But it shows that the real-world application of this tech is therapeutic, it's non-invasive, and, critically, it requires a device that you wear right on your head. Okay, so that's the science. It's fascinating stuff. But it's also happening in a highly controlled setting. Now, let's put on our engineer's hat and apply a serious reality check. What happens when you try to take this technology out of a quiet lab with a cooperative patient and apply it to those non-consensual claims we started with? Well, you slam headfirst into some massive physical and biological obstacles. Let's just put these two worlds side by side. The claim is control from meters away with zero physical contact out in the noisy, messy real world. The reality of the science, it requires a device in direct contact with the head, operating over a distance of millimeters in an electrically quiet, controlled room. I mean, these aren't small differences. They are fundamental engineering chasms. So the really critical thing to get your head around is the constraints. First, every single brain is different. What works for me won't work for you without a ton of careful calibration. Second, our world is just swimming in electromagnetic noise. From our phones, Wi-Fi, power lines, you name it. All of that noise can completely drown out the brain's tiny signals. And third, all of these protocols require a still, cooperative person. These are not minor bugs to be worked out. They are huge hurdles. And to really put that noise problem into perspective, just look at the numbers. The brain's electrical signals, by the time they get through your skull, are incredibly weak. We're talking microvolts. That's a millionth of a volt. Trying to read that tiny signal from a distance through all the noise of a modern city, it's been compared to trying to detect the ripples from a single raindrop in the middle of a hurricane. And because of these just immense physical challenges, the scientific consensus is crystal clear. This quote, which comes from an intelligence analysis of these technologies, it just sums it up perfectly. The very idea of reading or changing brain activity from a distance without any contact sensors, it's considered pseudoscientific. The laws of physics and biology as we understand them just don't support it. But okay, let's play devil's advocate here. For just a moment, let's assume that someone, somewhere, did overcome all those obstacles. How would we prove it? We can't just take someone's word for it. We'd have to approach it like a forensic investigation and ask, what kind of evidence would this technology leave behind? So let's frame this as a really practical question. If you, or anyone, truly believed you were being targeted by some kind of covert stimulation, what would it actually take to move that from a subjective feeling to an objective, verifiable fact? What would a real investigation even look for? Well, a real forensic investigation would need a checklist, and it would look a lot like this. You'd use spectrum analyzers to hunt for any weird electromagnetic signals in the environment. You'd use MRIs or CT scans to look for any physical microimplants. You'd do a deep forensic dive on phones and computers to search for malware. But the most important thing, the absolute key, you'd do controlled EEG or fMRI tests to see if you could find a brain response that was perfectly and repeatably time-locked to some external signal. Without that kind of hard physical evidence, a claim is, well, it's just a claim. Okay, so we've seen the lab science, and we've seen the immense real-world challenges. Let's try to bring all of this together into a sort of toolkit for thinking critically about any claim involving this kind of technology. This table is actually a really powerful way to sort through the noise. On one side, you have the hallmarks of strong evidence, things like effects that are reproducible and perfectly time-locked to a stimulus, physical traces like an implant or a measurable signal, and of course, verification by independent scientists. On the other side, you have the common disconfirmers, the red flags, things like effects that suddenly disappear when the person doesn't know they're being tested, or signals that turn out to be just common noise from a nearby appliance, or symptoms that are actually better explained by known medical conditions. And this really brings us to the main takeaway of this whole thing. It's not enough to just say a technology is being used. For a claim of precise, remote, covert neural influence to be credible, it has to have a plausible explanation for how it overcomes every single one of the known challenges we've talked about: the weak signal, the noisy environment, the need for direct contact, and the differences between our brains. The burden of proof lies in showing that these fundamental obstacles have been solved. Ultimately, devices like the Flow headset show us that neurotechnology is becoming more and more accessible. And that brings us to a final, really crucial question. The science is real, and it holds incredible promise for healing people. As it develops, the challenge for all of us is going to be fostering that therapeutic potential, making sure it's a tool for empowerment, while at the same time demanding rigorous, physical evidence for any claims that it's being used for control.